Hey everybody, let me stabilise this a bit. How you going? Back in my office again. But thought I'd take 5 minutes out of my daily time to chat with you. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share, by the way, before I forget. You may hear some fan noise going, that's obviously my mining kit over there. I haven't done any shorts. I did actually change the experiment coin again. I can't remember if it's Bitcoin SV or Fractal. I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm just playing around with different coins. I might actually change it just to actually go to Bitcoin on its own with the decrease in price of Bitcoin, and maybe the difficulty might come down a little bit. Hopefully, we'll see. So that may be one thing. But I've got the other still on Bitcoin Cash. But that's not what the kind of point of this video really, not the thing I wanted to talk about this week at least. I'm going to relax my fingers there by putting it on the desk, make it a little bit easier. Looking up at my nose. I did a video years ago actually on a laptop, a Hyundai, Hawaii. I can't even pronounce it now. Laptop that I had, and that had one of these webcams where it popped out the keyboard, which is a great design. It's like hidden away, and they clip in, it pops up. However, it was like nose cam because it doesn't look straight up. Just kind of like this, really. But yeah, anyway, as I say, that's not really the chat today talking about that. I might do some more shorts on that stuff. But I was going to talk about the fact that I've talked about the development stuff I've been doing, and this is kind of this daily, weekly vlog is really just me talking about life in general and history and all that kind of stuff. And I've not not had any conversations about sort of the funny stories for a while, but I may come back to those. But I've talked a lot about sort of AI and how things like AI and web have taken over, having physical books for many developers, at least in the offices that I've worked in the last several years. Been a complete decrease away from books, all relying on online. And now AI. But I was going to say, just kind of a continuation of that. I've been this week playing around with. I downloaded Android Studio. I think is it Otter? I can't remember which one it was now off the top of my head. I don't think it was a very late one because I just noticed there's another version called Panda, which may be the newer version. I can't remember which version it was. It was one that came from the official kind of place anyway, and it was downloaded last week onto my Linux laptop. I must admit though, I don't know if it's the fact that I need to put more memory in that laptop, but with 16GB of RAM, it kind of hangs a little bit now. I'm not sure if that's down to the fact that Mint or some other thing, but anyway, something to me to figure out. But I've installed Android Studio, and as part of that, obviously has Gemini, which obviously is another AI. And the good thing about Gemini, at least at the moment within there, is that it basically, although there is a paid version where you get more priority and credits, you are allowed. I can't remember. I was reading somewhere that was like 1,000 a day, maybe, but I know there's so many per hour requests you put in. But I literally built an app with Gemini in Android Studio, kind of almost vibe coding, to be fair. Now, don't get me wrong, I did exactly the same app with Claude, and I kind of used Sonnet, and then I've actually used the latest version of Opus for the last bit because there was a bug that I just couldn't get around, and I actually did some research and physically told it this is what I think the bug is, and it said, oh yeah, it is. And I used the latest version of Opus 2.6, is it, to fix that. But I did this version with Gemini and I did this version with Claude, and they both worked. They both had the same issue, to be honest, to begin with, and they both got resolved, although with Claude I did actually have to dig into it a bit more because it was using something first that you had to pay for after so many builds, and it looked quite nice, and then I had it changed to be a React native, I believe, or was it Android native? Anyway, but they both have the same bug and they're both fixed. The difference is the one in Android Studio, and it may be just because I didn't give it good definition, was a lot plainer than the one that was built in Claude, and the one that was built in I say Claude, Sonnet and Opus, the models that were used. It looked a lot nicer, and that may also be because it used React, whereas Gemini just used the bog standard Android native stuff. So yeah, it had nice cards and stuff in the Claude version. It had just a black screen and no cards in the other one. But anyway, the point being that you can download Android Studio now and get it to help you write an app with the AI that's built in. In fact, build an app with the AI that's built in. So I thought it was quite. It's good. It means that more people can get their thoughts into the world, build their own apps and get their thoughts out there. I do think that you still need to have a little bit of understanding of what's happening because, as I said, certainly there are issues which you need to maybe address yourself, and also you need to have a good definition. I'm going to try again using Android Studio Gemini and actually have a much better definition of what I want to see if it comes up something nicer by giving it stuff like use React, for example, rather than just not tell it to use anything. But yeah, I don't know if you've actually used Android Studio more recently, if you've even thought about it, looked at what you can do using Gemini. You may be surprised. I think it's quite a good thing. We're moving forward more and more. I mean, Claude are writing, Anthropic, is it, who do Claude, are using Claude more to write code, apparently, for themselves. So we'll be having AIs that write AI soon, if they're not already doing that. So yeah, it's an interesting concept. It's also kind of a little scary, because obviously they'll be able to do a lot with less need for us. But, it's the world that we live in, and I think there's a lot more stuff. I want to get into understanding prompts and writing prompts and stuff like that, because I think there's, I know there's marketplaces for good prompts, but I think that, you get your prompt right, then you get good stuff out of it. So yeah, that's just this week. Android, and I've released an Android app. It's in test at the moment. The Android app I wrote, it actually was the one that came out of Claude that I released because it looked nicer, with my own actual interaction and changes in there just to make it work. Because, as I say, Claude was going around in circles and circles and circles. Gemini did that as well. It keeps coming back saying, "Oh, the fix I've done has made things worse," which made me laugh because it was literally running for about half an hour, and it just coming back saying, "Oh, the fix I've done making it worse. Oh, the fix I've done made it worse." Eventually, it figured itself out, but it's just amusing to watch it actually kind of do something and say to itself, "Oh no, that's broken it even worse." So even the AIs do that, not just us. But anyway, that's enough now because it's 8 minutes and counting. I'm sure you've had enough of me waffling on about. Look out for any shorts if you're interested in the minor stuff. I keep seeing that. So there's two kind of minors or three minors I'm looking at. I keep thinking, shall I get another Nerd QX, but one of the Rev 6.1, because I think mine's a 5.1, 6.1. They can do 6 terahertz, but they're so expensive. And I looked at AliExpress because although a lot of people kind of try and move away from that, it is still a reasonable place. The ones I've got from there seem to be working fine. Fingers crossed, touch wood. But I've been looking at hammer miners, and there's a new version which does about 300 mega hash for Dogecoin and Litecoin. However, look at the solar chance, that's quite low. And for the price, there are other ones that actually get up to 1.2 terahash, I believe. So, or was it gigahash? I can't remember. But anyway, there are better ones out there for similar prices. And I keep also looking at the Octax, but they're so expensive. I mean, to be fairly honest, I look at the a lot of the other ones as well out there, like the Avalon S3, 3S, S3, whatever it is, and the Avalon Q, is it? So yeah, I keep looking at things like that, but again, they're bigger, noisier, more power. I want things like, for example, the Octax takes up to 200 watts, is it, or below, and the new version of the Nerd QX takes like 100 watt, and to me that's better because it means I'm spending less money on electricity. because electricity is expensive in the UK. Right, 10 minutes. 10 minutes of waffling. So I think you've had enough of me now. I'll catch you all next week, and as I say, look out for shorts. Bye for now.